This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Coffee-fueled stories. Hello, hello, hello. It's me, Michelle, your host and pocket DJ of Coffee Fueled Stories, a show where storytelling and coffee hang out. This week's special guest is Winnie Tataw. Hello, Winnie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me.
Absolutely. So this is really cool. You are a publisher. So we're going to get into the publishing aspect today. So you're the first publisher. So I'm going to ask you a whole lot of questions that might seem kind of stupid because I don't know anything about the publishing industry. Yeah, I'm really excited to ask you about that, your new business. But before we do that, let's let the listeners know that you have a series of fantasy books, and I'd love for you to explain about your series, your characters, the issues that you tackle in these books because they are very significant. I love the social commentary. So please let the listeners know a little bit more about you.
Yes. So, hey everyone. I'm Winifred or Winnie Tataw, and I publish fantasy novels, and then I publish grander novels for other authors. But about my book series, The God Scion, it is about a prince and princess, Prince Roderick and Princess Arcelia, and those are kind of our main characters that we follow throughout the series, and their families, and just kind of how messed up of families they were born into. And you find that out along with them on the backdrop of time travel, battling gods and goddesses in and out of space, and a lot of family drama and trauma, especially with problems with addiction, problems with mental illness, and really trying to sort out what are healthy coping mechanisms and ways of trying to heal childhood traumas. You get to see how these different family members kind of interact and try to sometimes better themselves or not better themselves or the people around them. And you just, again, root for them to, again, get better and find healthier ways to connect. And then you also see that how people who don't have healthy methods of healing do end up hurting more people than helping them too.
Thank you for sharing. Like that's deep and that's heavy. And so my question is, do you have experience with this area? Is this part of like your growing up or friends that you know? Like how did you create these characters, if you will?
So I won't say all of them are created based on just my family, but I do have family members who have history of mental health issues. And again, kind of just taking from that and just the people I've talked to and I've met and connected with over the years, places I've worked and volunteered at, I've worked with the houseless population, sexual assault survivors, and advocates, and also other people within therapy groups and self-care groups too. So just working with different collectives of people and hearing their stories and how they navigate life, both through healthy and unhealthy ways, really helped me structure this book and write these characters where they didn't feel like caricatures or stereotypes of people with mental health.
I love that what you just said, not the part about the people having to go through that experience, but that you wanted to make them characters and not caricatures or stereotypes. Like that is like that is like chef's kiss to you to doing that. So my question is, did you find that writing something this series, did you find that cathartic to help you heal with them in your own way?
I believe so. I think it really helped me, again, try to understand that there's a reason for every action. I believe people aren't just born bad, or most people aren't just born bad. I think there's a lot that goes into how people react to things, how they perceive the world. And, before I want to judge someone or um, cast them, I don't want to say cast them out, but basically maybe not interact with people. I want to know why they chose to do the things they do. And once I get context of that, I think it better helps me again decide if I want to continue connecting with this person or interacting with them or not. And I also see it as just because you have been through bad things and things have happened to you and trauma has happened to you does not justify you hurting other people. So, I think writing these characters and writing, there's especially one character I write that I love writing her, that she's been through a lot, but again, it doesn't justify all of her bad actions. It's more of understanding where she's coming from, but also still chastising her for the actions she takes, because you get to see other characters who have had it just as bad as her, but are still good people who try to be better, not only just for themselves, but for the people around them. So I like really looking at that two opposites, because not everyone who's been through trauma or just had bad days are necessarily just also hurtful people. You also have people who take that, learn from it, and try to be better people.
Absolutely. There was a lady that I knew. She had brain cancer, and she got through it, but she did not come out the other side a better person, which I found to be very shocking, considering like that's just something. I mean, cancer in general just sucks. But brain cancer specifically, and the fact that she was still able to function and have a business and do all of these things, but she was not a nice person. She was
Yeah.
so mean to me, and she was mean to everybody. And I'm like, seriously? Like, how are
Yeah.
you mean? Like, I just don't understand you. Like, so I get what you're saying, but at the same time, for me, I love a redeemable character, and I do love my anti-heroes for exactly what you were saying. Sometimes they go. Let's use this as an example. You have a character who, for the most part, is good for their, let's say that most of
Right.
their life, right?
Yeah.
And then a bunch of shit starts happening, and they just keep taking it and keep taking it and keep taking it. And then eventually they snap, right? They
Yeah.
just snap as human nature would dictate. That, we can only handle so much. And then they snap, and they start doing destructive things or bad things, right? But you still kind of want to cut them some slack, because you're like, well, for this much of their life, they were really good. And now they're starting to, they're so
Yes.
you're kind of hoping that they'll get back to their
Yeah,
original
good.
self,
That's good.
right? So
Yes.
so again, who doesn't love a redeemable character and an anti-hero? Because for the most part, that hero is still in that statement, right?
Yes.
So I love what you said about this particular character. Now, do you anticipate having like another series or a continuation of series? Because there's 6 books in the series right now, correct?
Yes. So after the sixth book is published, this series probably will. I know that it might have some prequels in the future, but that is in the far future. That is no time soon. I have a lot of other work in progresses that have been staring me down, waiting to be published. So I know I have to get through those first. But definitely, the God Scion series won't. The 6 books won't be the only books that'll be in the series. I definitely know there'll be more to come.
So now, did you always know you wanted to be a writer? Like, did you have these stories in you, so to speak, even though that, it's like you said, it's a culmination of people that you've worked with and things of that nature. But did you always know you had storytelling in you?
Oh, definitely. I think my family is originally from Cameroon, Africa, and storytelling and telling stories is something I've always grown up with, and putting that to pen to paper has also been something I've done, but I never conceptualized it as actually becoming an author. Not until probably my parents, I think in high school when my parents were like, start trying to write these like as full formed, not just ideas, but like full formed chapters or books and see how it goes for you. And even then I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, I can publish. Because I didn't really know much about self-publishing or the other forms of publishing. So I was just still writing to write. And as I continued, I realized I could publish these stories. But at the beginning, I thought, I also am an artist. So I've always been a painter and a drawer. So I was like, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I didn't think I was going to open up this venue to become an actual author. I thought that was only I thought you had to be a certain age, like that you had to be at least 35 and up to be an author. So I was like, oh yeah, when I'm like 35, I could become an author. Like that's the age requirement. I legit thought, I was like, yeah, there's an age requirement because again, for fantasy, most of the writers and authors that are published aren't in their 20s. So I thought I had to be older to do that. And, I think as I grew and learned that most of the time it's because people, again, maybe just didn't have the opportunities or, life got in the way as it always does. And, later in life, they had time to actually pursue these dreams they've always had. So, I've been blessed to have the opportunity to do it now. So I took those chances. So yeah, that's kind of how I stumbled into this. But yeah, it never was really the plan. And once I decided I was going to be serious about it, it then became my whole future.
That's awesome. So now, and I'm assuming your family is very supportive of this, and they're
Yeah.
like, you can do anything and everything at any age you want. Yes?
Yes, definitely.
That's awesome. I should say, are there any particular, say, like stories, like, is there folklore from like Cameroon? Like, are there any particulars? And I'll give you this example. I used to listen to a podcast way before I got into podcasting. I was listening to this one, and he would take folklore from around the world. And one of them was the tale of a spider from Africa. And I can't remember exactly where it was from, but I just thought this was like the coolest little folklore story. So is there something like that you remember, like as a child, that your family told you, like from your like background or anything like that?
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of the lore is kind of my mother was in the military, so we moved a lot and we lived in different places and countries. So I've always loved mythology and folklore. So a lot of it kind of was just component of both my experiences in learning and then also Cameroonian folklore that I've learned and grew up with. And that shows a lot in just the mythology and also the different creatures that show up in the books. So definitely I took a lot of inspiration just from like my family and then like other people's stories they would tell me and I would read about.
Have you noticed how Coffee Fueled Stories doesn't have any ads? That's because I work tirelessly to keep this show alive. After 3 years on my own, I've decided I need to ask for your help. I've never asked anyone to subscribe. I've never asked anyone to leave a review. I've never asked anyone to rate the show. And I've never asked anyone to pay to listen. There are a few ways you can help support the show. I've created a Patreon page, Coffee Fueled Stories, and a subscription section on my podcast website. It's simple to support and help me keep my dream alive. Just click the link in the show notes to set up your paid subscription option. It's that easy. Thank you for your support. That is so cool. That is like, I just, now I'm like, wow. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to read your books before we chatted. So that's why I have to ask you a lot of questions about them, unfortunately.
Okay.
So one day I hope to read, at least one book. That way I can be like, oh, this character is so cool. This monster, this creature, this is so cool. So I love that you were able to blend that into this, tale like that. So in other words, you're creating your own folklore, which is freaking
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, that's actually a great way of putting it. I usually when I go to events or I'm at like book signings and people are asking me about the books, they're like, "Oh, is it like are the gods or are they actual?" I'm like, "No, I create like they're influenced by other places, but these are ones I created myself." And they're like, "Oh, really?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I never thought of it as like folklore I'm creating, but yeah, I kind of am.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So now, did you get to a point when you were like, okay, I've got these books, I'm going to do these things. And because I went through this process, I guess actually I should ask you the question instead of trying to think of why you created your own publishing company. But tell what happened. How did you create your own publishing company? Because you're so damn young. So I'm like, how the hell did you?
Yeah.
Like I'm 54 and I, just published my book
You look
last
great.
year.
What?
Well, thank you. But I like you. I waited so long. Well, you didn't wait that long. I waited so long. I waited so long. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go work my ass off. I'm gonna work for 30 years. So
Yeah.
I worked for 30 years and then I'm like, okay, now I'm done working. I'm gonna write my book. So that's what
Yeah.
I did. I did the old school thing. You did it. So I say kudos to you.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
how did you, what was I should say the impetus or the little drop of water that turned into this beautiful publishing company that you created?
Yeah. I have to kind of go back a few steps to 2020 with the beginning of the pandemic and being at home and trying to still promote because lucky me, I had published my second fantasy novel a week before they shut everything down in March. Yeah, March 6th is when I published my second novel and then they shut everything down. So I literally got my own author copy and then they're like, "Yeah, that's it." I was like, "Great." So um sitting at home and just kind of trying to still do a lot now more virtual promotions. I came across a lot of, author interviews you can do online and I realized a lot of them were more just at least the ones for free because I was a college student. I didn't really have that much money. It was okay, put in your information, put in like when you started writing, how old were you when you started writing, what's your book about, submit it and we'll publish that in a week or two. And it got very repetitive and I didn't feel inspired to keep promoting that way. So I started thinking, well, what if I have a website, I have a blog I'm doing, what if I start promoting other authors too and other indie authors? And I just put out in like a Facebook group, I was like, hey, I want to start, promoting authors. And I got a great response back. And um, since then, believe I started publishing author spotlights in, I think, May of 2020 and it just kept growing and I kept learning things and I have a marketing background so I just kept learning and adding and then soon I think in like about a year I became known as like the person to go to if you're a new author who needs promotions and just guidance. I can't tell you how many emails I would get from, hey, someone recommended you for a new author who doesn't know what they're doing or needs help promoting their book, who doesn't have a lot of money to spend. So that kind of started my way into really building up my author and book community. And then I again started doing more promotions and marketing and workshops. And soon I started getting people asking, like, you're doing all this. Can you now publish my own book? And I'm like, you will try. Give me a year. Let me see what I can do. Let me see, let me research. Let me sit down and set everything up and see if I can do that. Because if if I would have started when people were asking me, I'm like 2021, it would have closed down in the month. There was no way that was gonna happen. But by 2023, 2022, 2023, I had again built a community and partnerships of other book businesses, other editors, other PR marketing firms, other book cover designers, like all these amazing people who provide book services that I'm like, okay, I with them can now do this. I can now start a publishing company because I learned quickly. I was like, I could have just done it where like, yeah, I can publish your book. And I could have done the whole process like I do for mine, but that wasn't going to be sustainable for both me and the author. One, because I just kept getting more busy. I kept doing more events. I kept doing out and selling and promoting my own books and work. And whilst doing that for other small businesses and authors, then to turn and try to also publish and do all the editing, do all the marketing and do all the writing, do all the website design. I was like, that's not fair to the author who, again, are usually new authors who don't have a lot of marketing or publishing know-how to, take their baby and just be like, well, I guess I can do this by myself. I didn't think that was fair. So by the end of 2023, I realized, okay, I have enough resources and people and team members that I can start a publishing company, and there is someone to do something for every part of it. So I may be the one helping and guiding you, but there's someone else who's editing. There's someone else who's helping with content. There's someone else helping with design. There's someone else with marketing, with book cover design, etc. So being able to do that is when I realized I could, in 2024, start publishing not just my books, but other people's books as well.
How many authors are you working with currently? How many books can you say I have published these books for these authors here?
So we are starting to publish this year. So we will have my book and another book published by Dan Owens Reed, which I'm excited for. It's a memoir, and it comes out in September. We have currently 4 authors, including myself, under our publishing company, and we're probably going to get more by the by the end of this year. We're probably going to have more. But 2 more will be the other 2 will be announced in summer of this year. So I'm excited for that. And I just love that all of the authors all write outside of fantasy. So they're all different genres. So we kind of just have authors from every genre. I joke to them, I'm like, I think I'm going to be the only fantasy author here in the company, because everyone else outside of fantasy is coming to me and they're like, hey, can you help me, or I want to publish with you. And I'm like, thanks, this is great. And I'm like, still no other fantasy authors want to join the team, but okay. But it's definitely great, and I didn't expect to get such a great and warm embrace, and just having these authors take a chance and opportunity with me. I'm so grateful, and building our own little publishing family that again, it's growing faster than I thought it would. I thought we officially opened in April, so already to have 4 contracted authors already it's so mind-blowing to me.
That is awesome. So first off, huge congratulations to you for doing that.
Thank you.
Like I said, and the fact that you just started it, and it was kind of like a whim, so to speak. It wasn't something, again, as a child, right? You weren't going,
Yeah.
you know what? I think I'd like to have a publishing company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're like, and now you can say, hey, I have a publishing company. Like, how did I do that? Like, how cool is that? That is so cool. So if someone wanted to, and I know that you've got a team now, but and I don't want to say you're full, but because people always want more, so to speak. But are there, to let the listeners know, are there certain things that they need to do in order to, say, work with you? Like there's, I'm assuming there's a website. I don't know if you have a form. Like, how is it? I'm going to pretend like I'm Johnny off the street and I'm coming to you and I've got a book or a manuscript that I have an idea for. And I come to you and I say, hey, I think I have a good idea for a book. Walk me through the process. Like, could you walk us through? You don't have to go step by step, but like, very high level, like how is it? again, because I don't know anything, because I too self-published. I was terrified to query. I was like, I have this thing and I'm just going to put it out there. So this is me asking you questions genuinely because I don't know the process at all. So I'm going to come to you, Winnie, and I've got a book and I'm going to say, hi, Winnie, I would love if you would publish my book. What do I need to do?
Awesome. So first thing, you go to winsbookspublishing.com, and we have a tab or page where you can submit your manuscript. And through there, it has all of the requirements that you need for your manuscript, how it needs to look, word count, name, etc. Once you fill out the form and send in your manuscripts, and again, also you meet the requirements of being one of the types of books we publish. So romance, all speculative fiction, memoirs, poetry, and I am probably forgetting one. I think it's business or self-care is also in that list. So those are like the main 5 genres we publish for now. Hopefully we expand, but for now, that's what we kind of want to focus on. And once you have submitted your manuscript, I and the team will go through it, read through it. And if we think it's a great manuscript that we can, create a book with you, we'll reach back out to you and let you know. And if it's not the best fit for us, we'll still let you know. And hopefully if we can find other resources that you could use to continue querying that is also available, we definitely will send that over your way too. But again, it's not a very painful process. I also do 1 hour free consultations with any new authors who are kind of curious on how the process, again, if they want the more in-depth step by step. Again, you can talk to me and ask me any questions you have. Even if you're like, hey, I don't know if my book or my writing is a fit, let me kind of pitch to you. And from there, I can be like, yeah, I think you'd be great if, submit your work in and we'll see from there. Or I'll be like, you know what? I don't think you're the best fit for us. For example, I had a great guy, he's a chef and he has a cookbook he wants to write. We do not publish cookbooks. I said, that is amazing. I think, I've seen your food, it looks great, but I don't have anyone on the team that could help with that. I personally, we're not looking to publish any cookbooks, so we won't be the best fit, but I know tons of cookbook publishers out there that I think would be better for both your time and your book as well. So again, I still try to make it where even if we're not the best, venue or venture for you, you still have other options. And again, always letting authors know that they do have other options available to them with their book, and you're not forced to sign on to anything until you've read it. So, always, keep your options open, or as they say, shop around. And again, if you feel like after hearing this that your book or manuscript is great, would be a great fit for us, like please submit. We open submissions until October of this year for 2025 and 2026 publishing. And then we will reopen sometime next year, if I can remember the month. I think it's April. I could be wrong, but you have until October of this year if you want to do publishing for 2025 and early 2026 with us.
Very cool. That's awesome. Thank you for walking us through that, because like I said, I don't know anything, and one of the things that terrified me was having to query, because I hear like that is like the scariest part of
Yeah.
of writing a book, right? Of publishing. It seems like that was like such an old school way of doing things as well.
Yeah.
And now, with self-publishing, people are just like, you know what? I'm not going to query. I'm just going to go ahead and do it myself, which is really crazy because my book baby is officially 1 year old today. So how crazy is that?
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
And happy birthday.
I wish I would have known about you a year ago. because I totally would have submitted my work to you because memoir is something that people just don't want to touch. So the fact that memoir is part of, I'm like, so maybe, so I'm going to have to go to your website. I'm going to have to
Yeah.
fill out because I actually have book two. I do want to do, I have book two.
Yay.
I haven't done anything with it, but I have the title, I have the cover, and I know exactly, I have all of the content. It just needs to be
Okay.
compiled. So,
Okay.
so how crazy would that be if I submit it to you and we do things? And then the other thing is I have another book that I'm working on that because of talking with authors and, basically I am calling everybody who's on the show a badass because they're very inspirational. So you are an inspirational badass because
Thank you.
you did these things all on your own. And then, and now you want to do you want and this is what I love. You want to do it for others. You want to help. You could have just stayed and done your own thing. But now you're
Yes.
like, okay, because I did this, because I've gone through this experience, I now have this knowledge that I now want to share and help others with. So thank you for that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
That's
And
awesome.
again, this is why I do it because again, someone who, and I did it when I was young, or I'm still young, but did it
Yes.
younger. So, I know how hard it is to self-publish. And I know I figured it out and I like it and I organized it, but not everyone kind of wants to go that route. Or again, I've heard other, self-published authors are like, I'm still going to try to see if I can traditionally publish because that was too much time, too much money. I was just overwhelmed, because not everyone is ready to do, because again, self-publishing, you're doing everything. And like I said earlier, I'm an artist, so I'm already used to having to put out my creative work by myself and doing everything. So when doing it now for literary art, it wasn't as difficult for me. But again, not everyone is structured like I am, when it comes to their organization, when it comes to getting their emails out, marketing, all of those things. So, being able to, again, be that guide and help people. And when, again, people came to me, I didn't, like, if no one would have asked me to do the publishing company, I wouldn't have done it because I was fine with just keeping Wynn's books as just for marketing and publishing my books. But more people kept asking me, if I give you my manuscript, will you help me publish it? And I said, okay. It's been a repetitive thing now. Like it's not just a one-off, it's been multiple people and multiple authors from all over the place and in different countries too. So I was like, okay, maybe I do need to look into doing this because these people are trusting me to, take their baby and publish it. And it's a lot. And giving someone that trust and that honor to do that, I felt like this is, if this is something that the universe and people are calling me to do, why not do it? So
That's
submit your manuscript. I'm ready. Like I said, you have until October.
sounds good. I love it. Yeah, everybody you hear that. We all of us, me included. So October. All right. So again, thank you for walking us through that process. I'm totally going to submit. So, like I said,
Yes.
I'm super excited because even though I did, like you said, I did the whole I suck at marketing. I'm not going to lie. I suck at marketing. It is the biggest weakness it is like the bane of my existence. So I bow to the marketing gods. This is me bowing to you. I love what you people do because I can't do it.
Thanks. It's usually marketing and editing are always the biggest things for most authors. Editing is usually because after you're writing, it's like, okay, now time to fix all the mistakes. And then marketing is, okay, how do I convince people to buy my blood, sweat, and tears I put into 5 years that are 200 pages? Like, how do I convince you all now to take a chance, especially when you're a new author? So I myself and other marketers and PR professionals work to, again, help you best market your book. And what kind of one tidbit of advice I will say is that it doesn't matter where you publish your book, you're going to have to do some footwork in marketing. You can publish with Random House, you can publish with Penguin, you can publish with any of the really big five publishing companies, or if you're publishing yourself or through hybrid, like regardless, you're going to have to know how to market your book, and you're going to have to do it a little bit by yourself. Like it's inevitable. It has to happen. It's going to happen. So for anyone who thinks this, if you go through traditional publishing, that they'll do all the marketing for you, no. And no, because they're also publishing 100 other authors and a day probably, and you're just one of many. So just knowing that marketing is always going to probably be the biggest thing you do when it comes to the book publishing process.
And thank you for that, because like I said, that is always the hardest part. Like I said, which is funny because when I was in high school, I wanted to work for a marketing firm. I wanted to work for a greeting card. I thought the coolest thing to do ever, because you gotta understand, it was the 80s. I'm from a product of the 80s. And I thought the coolest thing to do would work for an advertising agency in New York, making cards, greeting cards. I thought that was gonna be the coolest job ever. And then I did an informational interview with a friend of mine, who or I should say my parents, a friend of my parents, because I was, a teenager, and she had her own advertising agency, and she brought her textbooks from college. She had a PhD, so I was like, okay, this is the source to go
Yes.
to learn about these things, about advertising and marketing, right? So she came over, we sat down, she talked to me about, the whole process is, again, back in the 80s. And I was like, yeah, it's not gonna happen. Like, my little teenage brain said, nope, I'd rather write.
Yes.
I'd rather
Yes.
sit in a cubicle and be left alone and write than work for these people and do the things that they're doing. I'm like, nope. And so fast forward, I did a whole bunch of crazy stuff. I finally got my master's degree at 40, and then I got my first real
Congrats.
writing, thank you, my first real writing job. I was a technical writer, and I was so happy to just sit in my little cubicle and just be left alone. I was like, just pay me to write. That's all I
Yes.
want.
Yes, it's so, it's great. And, when people ask me, like, how did you write so many books? I'm like, for me, it's like drinking water. You just sit and here's an idea, and you just start going. So definitely, I love to write, and, being able to do it, and just, again, making a career out of it is amazing. So I definitely feel you on that. But more of, again, I think everything but editing is where I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I love the marketing, I love the designing, I love the website, all that. And then it's like, okay, now time to see which there are you using. And it's like, oh, actually, can we hold off on this? Like, can we do this later? And it's like, no, this is what they're going to actually be reading. This is kind of one of the most important parts of the whole process. I'm like, but okay. Okay, that's just ripping off the Band-Aid.
And thank you for being so honest. Like, I appreciate that, because I would be really surprised if you 100% through the whole process, regardless of which step it was, if you were like, I love it all. I'd be like, there's something wrong with that woman.
No, there's every author, once you start, and again, I take my authors, if you are not willing to be hands-on with the publishing process, then that's another thing. We are not the publishing company for you, because every month I do check-ins, and we sit together and we talk about what we need to get done. So I know there are just some parts of the process that they're going to learn after they're published, like, oh yeah, this part irritated me. This part, stressed me out. Like, there's one, I think the book cover designing process has been he's been like, I think this idea was better than this one. I think we should just stick with this. I don't know why it's taking too long. And I'm like, it's okay. So again, like, you're gonna find what part of the process that you're just like, yeah, if we can get, like, again, just rip the Band-Aid off and get it over with, like, I will be happy. And you're gonna find parts of it that you're like, oh yeah, this is the best part. I love this part. But again, another thing is, like you said, an author who is publishing other authors. So I know the full process. I understand it, and I understand what gripes I have with it. And I'm here to be authentic and honest with you. Because I don't see there's no point of being, deceitful or predatory. A lot of publishers can be that way. But and I'm going to be realistic. I cannot, I am not one of the big five publishing companies. I cannot promise that you are going to sell 10,000 books in 2 months. I can't promise you that. I can be hopeful. We can both be hopeful, but I can't guarantee that 100%. I can guarantee, yeah, we'll sell some books. I can guarantee that. But, and I can guarantee that you're going to have editing. I can guarantee you're going to have a website and marketing and all these things done for you. And with that, again, I'm guaranteeing my honesty. Like every month we're going to talk about things. I'm going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk about, whether it be formatting or what part of the process. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, okay, this is why we're having delays, or this is why we can't do this. And, I think that better builds confidence and trust with both the publisher and the author. And I want this experience, like there will be some parts that kind of stress us out, and that's okay. That's just with even with work, any type of job, anything you're doing, you're going to have some stressors in there. So I want to make this feel though as seamless and digestible and easy for you. I don't want you to go through what I went through publishing my first book, not knowing what I was doing and just going, okay, I just got to publish and then I'm going to be a New York Times bestseller and I'm just going to rake in all my book sales. Like that was very optimistic of me after I literally I think I spent a total of $300 to both write, edit, and publish the book, which is not enough to do nearly any of those things. And I literally did no marketing for it. Ironically, I just thought, oh yeah, I just have a great book. That's it. That's all I need. I just need a great book. And then people will find it, because it's not like there are 10,000 other books out there on the market. They will know that Winifred Tataw, such a common name, has published a book, who started her social media pages 2 months ago. Definitely, oh yeah, this is the one, y'all. This is the one. So I'm here to make sure you don't make my mistakes. And again, be honest about it. Be honest about the full process. And if you continue to publish with us, great, awesome. If you're like, you know what, I think I have all the tools I need, I can now start publishing my own books by myself, awesome. Or again, if you're not tied to only publish the rest of your catalog through Wins Books Publishing. If after 6 books you want to publish somewhere else, at least now if you go and you're querying and you're asking questions and you're reading through your contract, you know what to expect, and the value of your choice and what you should be given. Because you're like, oh wait, no. Why am I only getting X amount for this? Why is it only going to take, why is it taking 3 years to get this published? How many rounds of editing am I doing? What type of editing are we doing? Do I get to see my book cover? Do I get to have input on it? You now have all these steps and know-how that when you go, you can now, it's not just, oh, just sign this and we got it covered. It's like, no. Okay, what are we doing? What is happening with the book, with my manuscript? So you'll have that knowledge, to take on further with you. And again, if you want to continue publishing with us, you just know, hey, Winnie, in a year, get ready, because we're doing this all over again. So again, I'm here to do that too. So again, I want this to be I want it to be a easy process for both me, the publisher, and you, the author.
And I love your honesty. So thank you for being so candid, because I appreciate that. And that's the genuine. And again, that's, to have you explain the process and not blow sunshine up all of us.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, number one. I'm sure they appreciate that as well. But they're also, now they understand the process. So if they decide, they want to come, they've got an idea. Because, I used to tell my boss when I was the technical writer
Right.
for him, I would send him ideas all day long, and he would shoot them down all day long. And he's like, "Does this discourage you that I'm constantly like shooting down your ideas?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm full of ideas." I'm like, "You didn't hire me because I'm full of ideas. You hired me because I can write technical documents. That's why you hired me. I just happen to be full of ideas as well."
Yes.
I said, "So I'm gonna idea you all day. So
Yeah.
just know that that's the relationship we're gonna have." So that's what I'm getting at. Like, this is the relationship authors are gonna have with you. This is what it is. This is how it works. This is how you operate. This is how you work. And I appreciate that because I'd want to know up front. I don't want to be surprised. I don't want to find out 3 months from now I'm gonna have to sign in blood. I don't want that.
Yeah. Yes.
That
And
I want to know now.
yes. And again, I've gotten so many horror stories that from authors of like what other publishers have offered them, what other like others who have been published, like what experiences they've been through. And I'm just like, this that sucks. Like I'm so sad for you. And I again, however I can help make this process easier because just like any a lot of people don't realize that books are one of the oldest forms of entertainment. It's part of the entertainment industry. And we all know the entertainment industry can be very predatory and it has its own stipulations. So, the book publishing industry is sadly no different. And, our more independent ventures of our industry is fairly new. People have been able to make movies and documentaries and music independently for decades. But for books, maybe about 30 years ago, this really like being an independent author wasn't something like, yeah, an independent bookstore, but not an author. Like that wasn't something that was categorized or even respected. And, so we're still kind of new to the whole independence within this industry. And again, a lot of like the bigger companies or even some other small publishers have that say how things go. And as someone who is an author, I mainly focus on just sharing very unique and diverse stories and voices more than just again making a quick buck, because there are tons of ways. Again, I do marketing. I can just do that and I would be fine. Like my main purpose isn't just to make money off of you, it's to make a book. Again, I would be proud to even publish myself. I've gotten some submissions. I'm like, okay, this isn't the best fit. And when I'm visualizing it, it's not the best for us. I could have easily just said, oh yeah, we can make an exception for you and publish your book and you get 10% and we get 90 and that's it. And it's like, no, that I don't want people to feel discouraged, especially again, even though I haven't been writing as long as other authors, but I have been writing for most of my life. I know how hard it is to get your story, to get focused, and life happens and things happens and we have speed bumps. So, you finally have this, creation you made, not your mom, not your dad, not your friend, you made all by yourself. And for someone to take it and try to essentially set it on flames, it's painful. So anyway, as I'm just speaking in future terms, as your publisher, I can make this easy and resourceful and educational. I want to do, because again, I've been on both sides. I've been just the new writer trying to understand things, and I've been the now published author who knows how crazy everything is after you've published your book. So yeah.
And see, for me, that actually sounds like someone that the reason I would want to work with someone like you is because you are someone who's been through that process. You understand, the pain points, you understand the pain points, as opposed to some, just large publishing company who literally you're just someone on paper to make them money. Like, I don't know. I've always been the underdog. I always root for the underdog. And back in the day, independent publishing, indie authors, indie publishers, it was kind of like the joke. It was like, oh, that's someone who couldn't get picked up by, you know, the big five.
Yeah.
Now, like, it's like, hell no. Like, I want to stand up right now. Let me see if I can do this without like tripping over the microphone here. But I'm gonna stand up and I'm gonna do the superhero pose right now. I'm gonna do the superhero pose. I am an independent author, right? Like,
Yes.
we can own that. Like, we own that now. It's not a joke anymore. So everything that you were just saying, it relates to what basically that was the visualization of what you just said.
Yes.
It's no longer a joke. We are no
Yep.
longer something to be made. We are a force to be reckoned with because we lift each other up. We share each other. Like you were saying, you started helping other independent authors who didn't know what they were doing. And now look at you. And I couldn't tell you how many stories I hear about this. And that's the whole point of like Bookstagram and the indie authors and the hashtags for indie authors, because we are all here to share and lift each other up and help support, because we know the struggles that we have been through. And we're here to say, look, we're not a joke. We definitely we're storytellers. We have a story to tell, you know, and so thank you for that.
Of course, yeah. I say this a lot, that, no, you can never have too many books. And every story has a place on someone's shelf. I can't read every fantasy book known to man. That's impossible. But, there might be one I go into a little bookstore and I'm like, this is great. And I pick it up and that's my book, for the month or for the for the year, depending on how long it takes me to read it. But again, every book has its story and has its, place in the world. And I don't want to be the one to discourage the next writer from not taking a chance. I don't want to be the one to, have them feel like, okay, I was very cheated, publishing. I didn't, they don't know, you may not know the whole process. And, trying to, get someone who's just like, okay, quick money, after we're done with this, we can drop them. It's like, no, I want you to feel confident and both understanding this industry better and also understanding how, again, we are making our own voices heard in it and, becoming really big staples and important staples of it. So any way I can help uplift other voices, I think that's really what geared me to start, not only because people ask, but because like Wins Books, my company, Wins Books, has always been one of our key things. It's been community. So once I realized, like, I'm not only just publishing authors, like I'm connecting with them, I'm talking with them, I'm building a community of amazing writers with amazing stories and unique stories. None who have been fantasy yet, but it's okay. It's just me. Hopefully I'll get a fantasy brother or sister in the future. But definitely just, again, creating this, like, our own little magical community of diverse and unique voices, and, having them be heard and being able to just uplift them is really what drove me to finally cement this and, do this as a full-time thing, and not just for me, but for other authors.
I love that. And we're just gonna end on that note. We're not gonna beat this horse, because that was perfection. Like, I literally wrote, if you saw me looking down, it was because I was writing.
Yeah.
And what you were like what you were saying about building a community of voices and diverse, like that is gonna be the caption. Like that's it.
Yay!
That is why we're talking. So that's why I'm like, we're done. We're gonna end that conversation with that note. But that was perfect. So that was the most excellent way to end this conversation. But I do have one one more.
Yes. Or
Listeners,
two, maybe.
Listeners, I just said one and I held up two fingers. So that's what just happened. The reason I held up two is because I was like, I have one more question, but we're almost done. So it was a two-part statement on my part.
There we go. Yes.
So, Winnie, My favorite question to ask is, what is your preferred writing juice? That is what I like to call it because I like coffee. Not everybody drinks coffee. Some people like Red Bull, some people like water, some people don't like to drink anything at all, which is just crazy. But my question to you is, what is your preferred writer juice? What is your preferred drink? And how much of it do you consume in a day?
Oh, well, definitely it is teas. I am a tea lover. I wish I could get up and show you my full tea collection. I have about one just to my corner. I have three full, no, four tea sets. Just sitting right in my corner here. And I have probably over 20 different teacups from around the world and different states. I am a mess about tea. I do not play about my teas. So that is definitely my drink of choice. How much I drink a day just depends on how the day is going. Um, I probably maybe one cup average at two, depending. Again, I might go to three if we're getting crazy. It might go to four if we're going real crazy. But usually I have like either a morning wake up tea or a nightly tea, just to soothe the mind and get me ready or get me unwind me for the day. But yeah, I'm definitely a tea person, and I also for my it'd be book talk or TikTok. I do highlight other small tea businesses while I give tips about publishing. So I definitely, if anyone who's listening knows any great tea shops or small business tea stores that I can, and it's not sponsored, I buy the teas. So if you know of any, please send them my way because I'm always looking for more tea to consume. I'm a big tea drinker, so definitely that's always going to be my go-to drink of choice.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to follow you on TikTok. I'm not very active on TikTok, but I do appreciate connecting, through other social medias. And there is a tea lady. I'll have to send you her information. She has actually, of course, it figures. She's taking the summer off to go do family things. So she'll be back in the fall. But I'm gonna go ahead and send you
Perfect tea
her stuff.
time.
I do love her aesthetic. She does the same thing. She'll like feature a new tea and she'll do like these cool little I call them like little mini movies. So totally love the aesthetic, totally love the feel. So I'll share her with you over there. Sometimes on a Friday, I'll pour myself a third cup of coffee. And as I'm pouring myself that third, because I use the same thing. I try not to do more than two. I try to do two a day at the most. But on Fridays, because it's Friday, I will pour
Yeah.
myself a third cup of coffee, and literally I say this, I'm like, it's time to party.
Yes.
I'm having a third cup of coffee today. So I hear you on that, but I love tea as well. Tea is my mom is a huge tea drinker and she got me into tea. So I appreciate tea and I love, you're gonna have to send me pictures. Please send me pictures of
Yeah.
your little tea area so that I can do that in the promo when we release this week.
Yes.
So it has been such a pleasure talking with you, getting to know you, learning about your books, learning about your process, and laughing with you. So thank you so much for your time today.
Yes. Thank you for having me on. I've had a great time too.
Thank you. Would you please sign us off with my tagline of "Go forth and be magical"?
So up my brand. Yes. Go forth and be magical.